What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today, well, we just witnessed the practice game against the Gold Coast Suns at Metricon Stadium. Unfortunately, we went down by 21 points to a Suns outfit that was very competitive and very fierce for 4 quarters, and we were sort of like the people at work on a Friday afternoon, just waiting for a Friday afternoon knockoff, to be honest. But let's get straight into it. Let's review what was a pretty ordinary performance by Port Adelaide. And here are the things I learnt from the practice game. Now, I know a few of you would have witnessed it on the KO, on KO freebies, and for those that didn't, hopefully this gives you a bit of an insight on what the game and how it panned out. It was a dewy conditions, very Queensland-like weather. Had a bit of rain in the morning, and the ground didn't really hold up, especially with the game just before with Brisbane and Adelaide. So it was a little bit hard to judge, and I did really go into this game without any expectations. I think as well, we're still trying to blow out the cobwebs a bit. I think we're just finding our feet a little, really working on the tweaks we've made to the game plan. And if I'm absolutely honest, didn't look like anything to be excited about in terms of game plan wise. It's pretty much the same stuff that we've seen, the same shit, as my dad said. We're pretty rusty, pretty ordinary, and I learned that it's going to take a bit for us to get going again. I reckon it's early signs, early days, but there's a lot to work on going into the next game against the Crows, and then obviously round one a couple of weeks later. But that first point of we just looked ordinary, we looked a bit rusty, didn't want to be there almost. It was either that or it was a professional. Oh, okay, no, we're going to go about 80% and cop it really. Gold Coast were playing like it was their grand final, and Port, as I said, were playing like it was a Friday afternoon knockoff. So beggars can't be choosers. A lot of people will be disappointed with how we played, and there's going to be a lot of people that will absolutely thrive on social media from that performance. But it's a practice game. I'm going to put that point there right now. It's a practice game. I'm not going to dive too much into it. I'm not going to take too much away from it either. And I just think when it comes to round one, if we put that performance out in round one, then I'll jump on your bandwagon. A positive from today's practice game was Josh Sin and Jackson Mead. Now, I've almost got them down as locks for round one, I think. Their performances over the pre-season, the intra-club match, today's game against Gold Coast, and from what I've heard of training and the work they've put in, they're really starting to shine. And Joshy Sin was a very impressive player again today. His attack on the ball carrier as well was sensational. It was a beautiful kick in those conditions. He was very clean, had a nice set shot goal as well, and that was very impressive. And Mead in the midfield, he could run, he could carry. He looked very much at home in that middle, starting in the midfield, and he was a great overlap runner as well. And his disposal use, whilst today's disposal use wasn't great across the board, he looked like he was very, very much at home in that aspect as well. So another positive, that is, but we'll see what happens with them over the next coming weeks. But definitely very good early signs from those two. Now, a lot of people might not have picked this up. Now, this is another thing I did learn today, because I'm kind of a little bit questionable on how we were looking, especially in that last quarter, and aerially as well. I think we didn't look like we had much connection in play, especially in the air. There wasn't a lot of voice, that I reckon. There wasn't a lot of demand for that football, and it was happening at both ends of the ground. Defensively, we looked out of whack, a bit unco. Up forward, well, it's the same issue. Marshall, Georgiadis, Finlayson were just trying to work each other out, and it wasn't great conditions for a tall forward brigade, but definitely something that I'm going to have a little bit of a highlighter over the top of those and just see how that pans out, because it leads into my next point, which is basically no Dixon is a real problem. And you can tell we missed Charlie out there today. It was a very lackluster affair. We didn't have much aggression about it. And I'll reiterate, it was a practice game, so not expecting us to come out and play like we would have, in a round one game. But it was a little bit concerning that without Dixon, we still haven't learnt how to deal with that and cope with that. And Marshall early on looked okay, but he was just dealing with the fact that he had players around him, and there was no voice aerially, there was no demand for the football, someone to say mine, and that's a real issue right across the ground. because contestedly we looked almost okay. I think that was probably a pretty good positive. Our run with the ball was very impressive, I thought, when we did carry and run and use that pace and overlap handballing and overlap running as well. That was very impressive. It's the small things that we do that do light up our game plan, but it's the finishing as well, and that leads into my final thing. Second to final thing that I learned actually, which is Alberton. It looked like, I think, with the way we were goal kicking, everyone would have thought that we had no goalpost down at Alberton over pre-season, because just shocking goal kicking. Early on, I could understand they were having shots from, snaps from the boundary, tough, tight shots. But then in the end, I think the last 10 behinds were easy on the run, or set shots that should be kicked by tall forwards. Marshall had a couple. Ollie Wines had one pretty easy. And these are the types of goals that we should be kicking in games, and just have that problem. I know the conditions were a bit off, but very questionable. 6 goals, 19 is not something you want to be going into with that sort of confidence. And once one happens, two happens, it just rolls on. And at one stage, we were 2 goals, 11. You just don't want that. You need a bit of momentum with your goal kicking. And once you get into the yips of being in front of the sticks and not kicking them, it drains through the whole team, and that's what happened against the Suns. So something to look at for Port Adelaide when it comes to going back to training and really focusing on goal kicking. And it's been a problem for years, and I know that, but really got to hound in on that. And lastly, look, not something Port Adelaide related, it's just the stream. KO Sports, I'm grateful for the fact that you are streaming the games and giving fans an opportunity to watch this for free on KO. And they're able to watch their team play practice games and get a bit excited about footy. And mind you, I'm not really that excited about footy at the moment, continuing with Port Adelaide's performance. But maybe just buy a good, decent camera. Like, I could film better on my Samsung S21. So that's probably the only thing I'd change from the KO stream. And different insights from different commentators was pretty good. But yeah, it was very hurtful in the eyes watching the KO stream and trying to pinpoint where the ball's going, and you're cutting away, and there's a wide lens, short lens, close lens, and all these lenses, and I had no idea where the ball was at some stage. So yeah, something to work on for KO as well. Well, Port fans, thank you for watching the things I've learned between Port Adelaide and Gold Coast in the practice game. Not a lot to be happy about, let's be honest with that, but plenty more to work out and plenty more to play out in this pre-season before we get to round 1 against Brisbane. So keep an eye out on how the boys go there. Keep being excited. Footy season's only around the corner, so we'll get things going and things will work out. Trust me. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content. My name is Anthony, and as always, come the pair. Kick some goals.